Tonight, confirmation out of Barcelona, Spain. Catalan police now say that the body recovered from the sea near a popular nightclub is, in fact, that of 20-year-old University of Alabama student Jimmy Gracey. And what began as a spring break trip has now ended with a horrific death. The question tonight, what really happened to Jimmy Gracey?
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the global phenomenon with over 50 countries represented in our community, bringing you the very best guests in all of true crime. Tonight, a very sad story, one that we have visited in a different form several times. Thinking of that young student in the Dominican Republic, disappeared into the water, apparently. We have never heard from her again or since. And, of course, Riley Strain, who we'll talk about. Those are just two that come to mind off the top of my head. But we are following breaking developments out of Barcelona, Spain, where authorities have now confirmed that the body recovered in the water earlier today near the Shoko Nightclub, which is the last place that Jimmy Gracey was seen, is in fact his body. And while we now have that heartbreaking confirmation, what we still don't have are answers to a whole bunch of questions, as we also welcome in here Black Widow, a member for 22 months. But let me get the best guests in here. Coming to us from the home of the University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Mary Turner, best guest. She is a criminal defense attorney, and her own daughter was on this program through the University of Alabama back in 2024. Then we've got Monica Jordan, the internationally recognized private investigator and good friend of Tim Jansen, and ergo, my good friend as well, and Steve Cohen's and the COEs and everybody else, and also a good friend. And last but not least, Jennifer Koffendorfer, retired FBI special agent, and also she contributes to News Nation. And Jen, where do people find you on YouTube?
YouTube, I'm at Break the Case with Jen Koffendorfer.
Break the Case with Jen Koffendorfer. So, Mary, tell us, we're going to get into this. You're at the home of the University of Alabama, and I know that the university community has to be mourning. What's the atmosphere like in light of this news today?
Well, they're on spring break, so pretty much the university has, except that, all the students are pretty much gone. But I have spoken to a couple people at the University of Alabama, and they have been working overtime to try to, provide support for the students that are over at in Barcelona, and reaching out to them and support for the family as well. And it's just kind of, even our community, even though we're not, just the normal people, not a part of the University of Alabama, it's just very, very sad.
Yeah, extremely sad. Here's a statement from the University of Alabama. I'll read it aloud to those who are listening. The University of Alabama community is heartbroken to learn of the death of Jimmy Gracey. Jimmy's loss is deeply felt across our campus. Our condolences are with the Gracey family during this devastating time. We ask that their privacy be respected as they grieve. The university has been in close contact with family throughout the week and will continue to provide support to them and to Jimmy's friends, classmates, and all members of our community who are affected by this tragedy. Counseling and support resources are available to students by calling UAPD at 205-348-5454. That's 205-348-5454, and to other members of the community. And there is then a list for the employees. Jen Koffendorfer, we're going to get into the kind of the particulars of this. You helped us cover Riley Strain back in 2024. He was a University of Missouri student. He goes down to Nashville to visit friends. He's last seen on surveillance video. It became a real mystery as to what happened. And it was, I guess, about a week or so, or it was closer to 2 weeks, I think, of searching, that his body is ultimately discovered in the Cumberland River. It appears that there are, real parallels here. as a retired FBI special agent, what is your sort of cautionary words of advice to parents and to students who are going to either be spending spring break, here stateside or, also abroad internationally? What do students and parents need to know?
Well, the number one thing is the buddy system. And I know it becomes very difficult sometimes when somebody wants to stay out later. Whenever you visit Europe, of course, the time change is huge here. They had just arrived, my understanding, on Monday. And so their time clock would have been 7 hours early. 3 o'clock in the morning would seem like 8 o'clock at night. So it makes all the sense in the world to me that they would be, still ready to stay out and for a few more hours. So the big thing is you have to stay with your buddy. You can't leave your wingman. I'm not trying to blame anybody, any friends that were with him, but that's the cautionary tale that we hear over and over again, not only with Riley Strain, also with Brian Bone, also with Christian Martinez, all of these cases, and I could just list them out. Brendan Santos, the same exact situation, a lot of alcohol, close to water. Either they fall in accidentally, and the next thing you know, they're disoriented and drown, and it is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and Jen, you're getting word. Investigators had said that there might be foul play suspected. You're getting word that there's likely no foul play. What are you hearing?
Yeah, that's correct. If you look at actually the PIO, that is the information officer for the Catalan police, has specifically said they do not suspect foul play. So I'm quoting his quote. That they don't expect or believe foul play. The cell phone, recall, was either pickpocketed or somehow stolen from Jimmy before the incident occurred. And there is also word that there was an extortion type effort, and that's how law enforcement came to make an arrest of the individual that stole it. 250 around there, 238 to 250, depending on the stats you look at, are the types of petty crimes that happen in Barcelona every day. This is a high area of petty theft and pickpocketing, especially for tourists.
Yeah. So, Monica Jordan, you have a daughter who's in college in Texas. I don't know if she spent any time abroad. What, if anything, at some point you've got to let your children become young grown-ups. But what, if anything, would you tell her? And I'm sure there is a big if here. If she was going to study abroad or when she takes trips, what do you tell her?
Well, I agree completely with Jennifer, and that is you have to have the buddy system. I mean, the one of the biggest things I talk about is that it's so much more difficult to parent adult children than it is smaller children. I think Mary can appreciate that, having, a college age child. They're just old enough to be adults, but we're still monitoring a lot of the behavior and a little bit of the risk taking. But to go overseas, I've had nieces that have studied, abroad through the colleges. I've had friends' daughters do that. And to be quite honest with you, it's very terrifying to me. We've seen what happens in some of these cases where, one of the biggest things that sticks out to me as a defense investigator is the Amanda Knox case. I mean, could you imagine being overseas and the next thing you know, you're charged with murder because you went home with, some guy from a bar and your roommate gets killed? So those are the things that always terrify me. And I would think my daughter probably wouldn't be traveling alone. I would probably find the resources to send somebody with her, even if it was just a friend, but they would be glued together.
We're looking at these photos, and just call me Kim, I think it is. I have 2 college-age children. I'm not a helicopter mom. I mean, you have to release the grip at some point,
Yep.
but these are parents here who raised this guy, and from all accounts, he's an outstanding young person at age 20, and then you go on a trip and you don't come back. So just before we get into the details, he's 20 years old, Jimmy Gracey, a junior at the University of Alabama, which is, always been, but especially now, one of the top universities, and obviously one of the top college football universities in the country. He was a chaplain in his own fraternity, Theta Chi fraternity. Mary, your own daughter went to the University of Alabama. I know you're in Tuscaloosa, so there's tons of pride there. Tell us a little bit about her program and what was it like for her when she went away, and what was it like for her to receive this news?
Well, I spoke with her today, so she was very concerned. Obviously, she said that when she went with the program, Lead Abroad, that, you know, they talked to them and they kind of had meetings and they discussed where they were going and the importance to, she said, I never pulled my cell phone out. I was at all. She said that the Lead Abroad program had a QR code. So in case your phone did get stolen, that you could get someone to scan this QR code, and then all the numbers from the people from Lead Abroad would appear. So she would know who to call. But like she said, is this guy, Jimmy, did not, you know, he wasn't a part of that program. And so he probably, I don't know, maybe didn't know the ins and outs of Barcelona and how to survive. But Claire, my daughter, said that this area that he's in is a very popular area. She says there's lots of police officers there, but when you go to the beach, which is not far from where he was, there are not that many law enforcement officers there at all. So she appreciated that what the university did and kind of educated them before they went over to Barcelona. And even Jimmy's friends, they all said that they shared their location. So you do it on Snapchat or whatever. I know that that's what Claire does. And so everybody knows where everybody is. And they said with Jimmy that when they looked at the location, they found that he was at the police department. And of course, that's where his phone was. So there were some safeguards, but, you know, obviously not enough.
And Mary, are there, I mean, this is putting the cart ahead of the horse, and I'm sure the last concern at the moment on the parents' mind, and our hearts go out to the family. And there are people within STS Nation who know Jimmy Gracey, who reached out to us. So our thoughts are with you tonight. But any legal roads that the family is going to be able to take in light of this tragedy?
Not that I see as far as suing someone or whatever. No, I would obviously push for an autopsy. I think that that's a very important thing that needs to happen before you rule out foul play. And, you know, I think and Jennifer may know this as well, but I think it's very strange that it's a totally different investigation as you would have at the United States. We would have composite pictures. We would have things out there showing who he was talking to and stuff like that. And this is all held very close to the vest. And, you know, I just wonder what effect that had in the investigation. And if this was in the United States, would it be investigated differently?
And Monica Jordan, thank you for that, Mary. Second beach gal. Barcelona is known for crime. It's also known to be an absolutely beautiful city. My daughter was in Madrid a semester, obviously fairly far apart, Barcelona and Madrid. Same with pickpockets and crime. We warned my son. These people know their targets, which, by the way, this brings me back to like this is a inside Waldman family. This has been talked about for 50 years in my house, probably. But when I was, I guess, a little less than 50 years, but maybe when I was 7 years old, we were in Spain, and they've got gypsies who walk around. And I was with my sister, who's 5 years older, and we passed a gypsy, and the gypsy spit a sunflower seed onto my face, and it stuck onto my chin for a second or two before dropping off. And to this day, my sister will go like this, and we know exactly what she means. So there have been some issues in Spain going back a few years. But Monica Jordan, little lighthearted story on a sad, heavy day here. But so Jennifer is saying, and I have no doubt about this, that basically the Catalan police and they actually have a Twitter page. I think it's Mossos, Mossos, where they're tweeting information that perhaps foul play is not suspected now. But again, we're dealing with a foreign country. Monica, if you were called and they said, "Hey, I need you to investigate this as a private investigator to figure out exactly what happened." We know he was last seen around 3 a.m. at this Shoko nightclub, and then he became separated from his group of friends. He was there visiting people who were on this semester abroad trip. Monica Jordan, where do you start with this in a foreign country, and how do you start?
I would go to the group of people he was visiting. That's who he was. That was the intended people he was there to see. They were with him that night. At some point, they got separated. But everything the family is learning and everything we're learning through the media is kind of third hand. It's not firsthand. And so I would want to be on boots on the ground interviewing those witnesses immediately. Like if they brought Mary and I in to go over there, I would imagine at Mary's direction, I would be interviewing all of those college kids he was there with. I'd be interviewing the employees of the Shako restaurant and lounge. And if you look at that on a map, it's right there on the beach. So it wouldn't be too difficult to stumble out of the area of the lounge area onto the beach and then maybe near the beach. Also, I would want to be having a really close relationship with the law enforcement, hoping that somebody would share. I know they're being very close to the chest with the media, but I would be hopeful that as a member of the legal team on behalf of the young man's family, that they would share a little bit more with us, since we would be kind of the point of contact for the family. And also the biggest thing that I would want is the autopsy. I always worry that there's something on board that may have been voluntarily consumed, like maybe too much alcohol. Mm-hmm. But we also have to worry about the same things in other countries that we worry about here. And that is, somebody slipping something in your drink so that they can maybe later take your wallet or take your phone. But all of those things combined would be my immediate reaction the second we landed.
Yeah. And I mean, Monica, just to follow up on that, is there any guarantee that an autopsy would be done here, or we have to request it, or what?
If I was on the team, mm-hmm. I would request it. And even if we had to pay for it privately.
Okay. What?
Because here's the thing, if he slipped and fell and became disoriented and then stumbled into the water, I want to know that he slipped and fell. And if we have a contusion on the brain or something else, I don't know if he just fell in the water and then the tide took him out, or if he walked out into the water, or if he had passed out and then got moved into the water. You just don't know. So an autopsy is going to tell you what's going on externally to the body and also what's going on internally through toxicology.
And this is a question you probably only hear on shows like this. How much, at least in America, Monica, what's a private autopsy cost you? What's it run?
Oh, you can get one done for like $1,500.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
yeah.
Not too bad. So Jen Koffendorfer, from Gia and TJ's mom, I'd never been to Spain. Are the police there to be trusted to investigate correctly? So, I mean, this is sort of the heart of the matter, right? I mean, Jen, do you trust the Spaniards implicitly in terms of law enforcement? Would you, I don't want to set up a hypothetical, God forbid it's, your child or someone but would you want to investigate this independently if it was someone that you knew, just to dot all the I's and cross the T's, Jennifer?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would do is reach out, of course, to the State Department, and in conjunction with that, to Ligat FBI in Barcelona. Now, I used to know the Ligat there, but he has since retired, Pete. But I think that they would be very well trusted, and certainly the FBI is going to be trusted there, and that's your liaison bridge to the law enforcement authorities. Also with the State Department, they are also your huge friends here. When I would make it into country, I would want to have, and for anybody in STS Nation that hasn't done this, even there, if they are your adult kids, fingerprints as well as palm prints of your children, especially if they're going to be traveling abroad, is important. Also, all information you can enter in SMART, which is basically a State Department program where everything's in there. So just say a horrible situation happens like this, they have all the information, and it saves a lot of time in the beginning stages, because the State Department and Liga FBI has been involved since second one, and they are really the liaison to the local law enforcement there in Catalan in this situation. So through them, I think I would feel comfortable trusting what was told.
Yeah, and Jen, I don't think a lot of people know this, but the FBI has offices abroad. I mean, in how many, like, do they have an office in every European country? How does that work?
Yes. So there's 56 field offices within the CONUS, we call it, Continental United States, and OCONUS, even talking about Alaska and Hawaii. Then outside of that, we have offices in virtually every country that would be a NATO type country, and throughout South America, throughout Mexico, throughout the different British Virgin Islands, throughout the Caribbean. We have legal attaches that handle that. As an example, when I was the SSRA in St. Thomas over the U.S. Virgin Islands, also handled duties that would come, necessary in the local islands along the British Virgin Islands, as an example, to assist. So in any event, yes, we have offices and agents throughout the world.
Wow. Walking on Sunshine 4292. Mary, back to you. Our 20-year-old son went to Xoco, Madrid, and they were in Xoco, Barcelona, with a fraternity club friend, most likely Barcelona, Xoco too, during spring break 2 years ago. Stayed out way later than we would like, according to Find My Phone app. When your daughter was in Spain, I don't know if you want to reveal it to her, whether she knows this or not, but were you tracking her in any way? Were you following her, with technology, just to keep an eye on her in case there was a situation that arose?
My daughter, yes, but not as. My daughter is very, very responsible, so not as much as I would attract my son. My son, I probably never even put my phone down. But my daughter, yes, I always thought it was neat looking at where I am versus where she is, but yes, I kept in check, and so I know my husband, her father did as well.
All right, so this is a photograph. This is courtesy, I think, Fox News Digital, and our friend Mike Ruiz is doing a really, really good work. Apparently, Jimmy Gracey's body is found between, you see the blue, sort of like the blue pier there, and this boat somewhere in that area near Port Olympic, roughly 500 feet from the nightclub, so really close to the nightclub. And I think he was last seen at about, I want to say 3 a.m. And I'm not sure if that was local time to the U.S. or in Barcelona. But once again, if you're just joining us, the Catalan police have confirmed that the body is that of 20-year-old University of Alabama student Jimmy Gracey. And he was essentially found in the same area where he was last seen alive. But at least some people are raising the question, Monica. They're not sure how he died, and we'll get into why there's some questions about this. The main thing is a cell phone that was recovered. But if you're investigating and you're out there in this part of the world to track down what happened, are you going and speaking to workers at this port or at this dock here?
Well, I think you have to be very careful. You want to talk to the people that you know are going to be friendlies, which are going to be the people that were with him or who you assume to be friendlies. If we're learning that there's not foul play, or there's suspicion that they're suspecting that it's not foul play, you don't want to run afoul of local law enforcement in another country and start interviewing their natives. I think you may find yourself way out of bounds and find yourself in your own kind of trouble. That's why Jennifer is absolutely right. If you can immediately align yourself with the FBI office or, somebody in that area that kind of can lead you through that, that's a much safer thing. You don't want to spend your time being investigated from talking to people that are employees of of the boatyard or, the club or anything like that. So you have to, that's just a really delicate thing when you start doing international work.
Yeah. So, Jen, let me go through a couple of things. And the phone, the cell phone, is where we are dog friendly. So I'm loving that.
I'm so sorry. I have
No.
three.
We're a dog friendly show. I like that deep voice. So let me get to the phone here, and this is Jimmy Gracey's cell phone. You see here from Anglia, who stole his mobile phone? Well, she's asking that question because his phone was apparently, Jen Koffendorfer, found when police arrested someone, and this is where the story gets really like kind of nebulous and unclear. It has been reported they didn't know if the phone was lost or stolen or something else, but apparently police did have this phone and they were trying to pinpoint a location. But they don't know whether the person who found the phone had any connection at all. And apparently, at least according to your reporting, Jen, and what Maslow, the local police, is reporting tonight on Twitter, is that there's no reason, I guess, to be alarmed. But that phone is a huge clue, Jen Koffendorfer. What do you do with that cell phone, and why wasn't it on his person? Why did someone else reportedly have it?
Right. That cell phone is critical. And it's my understanding that it was pickpocketed or otherwise stolen from Jimmy earlier before he went missing, reported stolen, actually, according to the report. And then beyond that, my understanding is that there was an extortion type effort made. In other words, and I had a case like this in Texas, so it really rang true to me, is a person will steal the phone, pickpocket it or otherwise, and then they'll call different numbers. They're very tech savvy with this phone or with these phones to even get in. And then what they do is they try to extort the person. Listen, it's a $1,200 iPhone. This can all be yours for $200. I'll leave it in this particular space. And in the situation I knew about, they left it in a locker at a health club for a particular, that was the trade-off, right? So that is what I'm understanding. However, I would love to see the police report on it, but there's a lot of these petty thieves that run these scams in these areas. Most of us think, well, we already have a cell phone. We don't need them. They're not worth much. Not in these countries. In these countries, these scams oftentimes go along with them.
Yeah, Denise here, buddy system, and this is what Jen Koffendorfer started the show with, is always good to encourage our children. My sincere condolences to the Gracey family. A beautiful boy. Again, he was a chaplain in his Theta Chi fraternity by all accounts. And, most 20-year-olds are pretty pure, good souls, and this guy seemed to be absolutely no different. But someone just had a comment up, Monica Jordan, about how difficult it was for them to just get a police report. I believe it was in Spain or another foreign country. How tough is that, Monica, before you even, let's say, headed overseas to investigate this? If you requested a police report, is that tough to get a hold of, Monica Jordan?
Yeah, we are very fortunate in Florida. We can get anything, but I can barely get anything out of Texas. Like if I want a police report or a crash report out of Texas, it's like an act of Congress. So what you find are every state governs a little differently. Internationally, we have no authority. So you really are at the mercy. If you go over, like I said, if Mary and I went over as the legal team, or obviously we'd love to have Jennifer because she's going to get us in the door with law enforcement.
Yeah.
But the idea is to really ingratiate yourself in that community. And hopefully they will be sympathetic to our cause and be a little bit more willing to allow us to get some work done, because we have no authority to get anything.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. And you said not just Barcelona, but Texas. It's tough to get answers from people. But Mary, here's a really good point from Becky Ireland's a longtime friend of the show. What are the chances that the local police claim no foul play to secure their tourism? I have no idea how much money they make, but I know Barcelona is one of the hottest tourist spots in the entire world. The last thing they need is for headlines in America to say that Jimmy Gracey, 20-year-old University of Alabama student, was either murdered or got into a fight with someone that stole his phone, and that person throws him into the sea and he drowns. they've got a lot of reasons, billions probably, to cover their own behinds. What's your response to that?
I mean, it's possible. It is possible that's what they did. I think we've seen that they ruled out, foul play, but I've also read that, they wanted to, before they ruled it out, they wanted to see an autopsy. But anything's possible. So, according to my daughter, this Barcelona is a little bit separate from other, I guess, places, cities in Spain. And she felt that they would do a very good job in investigating it. And so as long as they have not ruled out foul play, I think I'm fine. But obviously it's possible.
Here's another famous name for all the wrong reasons, Natalie Holloway.
Yes.
She was in Aruba. Was she from Alabama?
She's from Alabama. She was from Mountain Brook, Alabama. And I think it happened in 2000, was it 2004 or 2005?
Yeah, it was like the early mid 2000s.
Yes. Sure. And so she was actually on her high school, her senior trip, and left a bar with a guy who ended up not only killing her, but killing others after the police released him. Killed maybe 2 other girls or whatever. But yes, she didn't have the buddy system, and her friends let her walk away with this guy and maybe another one of his friends. But this has been devastating, I know, for that mother. And I finally brought him to justice maybe 2 years ago in Alabama. So that was a lot of closure for that family.
Yeah, I remember Greta Van Susteren was down there incessantly covering that story, as was Geraldo Rivera back in the day when cable news was a little bit different. So we're looking at a wide shot, obviously, of this part. You see how beautiful it is there. But that's the nightclub area, and that's the pier. And someone was asking, his body, Jimmy Gracey's body, was recovered in the water, kind of around where that circle is. Jen Koffendorfer. So the phone remains a mystery, and I'll circle back to that. But apparently his wallet is now found floating on top of the water. Seemed strange to me. Is that, from your own experience, if someone drowns, and we don't know that to be the case for sure here, but if someone drowns, is that something that happens? Does the wallet tend to slip out the back pocket and end up floating? Unless, that's typically where men carry their wallets in the back pocket. Did that little detail that they found the wallet floating there, did that throw you for a loop at all, or did it make perfect sense?
It made perfect sense. And actually, when I read that early this morning, I tell you, I just completely deflated. You always want to hold out hope that they left with that person. It was a girl and they just held up someplace overnight and that everything's going to be okay the next day. And early this morning, about probably 4:00, when I was up and read that, I was just sick at my stomach because I knew that they would probably find him in the water. And of course, law enforcement thought that. So it is very normal. Sometimes they even lose their pants and things like that, shirts, because of the currents. And because of the sort of shrinkage as the cold water hits the body, and depending on the loose clothing and loose items come out. So that is usual.
This is horrible. And again, I keep, as a parent now, I'm thinking of these parents, and it's just, they've got to be beyond devastated. They released their own statement, which I think the COE has. We should try to get that up, COE. Now, the family spoke with Fox News Digital prior, I think, to the body being discovered, and said that previously, Monica, that his phone had been recovered during the arrest. The wording of this is so weird, that his phone had been recovered during the arrest of a third-party individual, but it wasn't immediately clear that this person's possession of Gracey's phone was connected to his disappearance. Separately, Gracey's wallet had been recovered from the water floating there. Now, the Illinois native, according to this report, was last seen around 3 a.m. at this Chaco nightclub, which is a waterfront nightclub next to the city's Port Olympica. Police acknowledged that some details circulating publicly may ultimately prove accurate, but said that they were withholding confirmation of details until they had a clear understanding of what happened. I guess I have a couple questions, but Monica, now that they've pulled the body from the water, is it sort of incumbent on the Barcelona police here to release the information so you and I aren't sitting here in America on a podcast going, what is happening here? Like, a phone was recovered by some thief, apparently. The wallet was recovered floating on the water. We have no idea if the two are connected or not, and they're saying no foul play. So your response to these details?
Well, with my international work, I have found that other countries aren't as quick to report. Like I often say in the United States that I'd rather the information be right than always be first. Unfortunately, our media here is always, it's just a 24-hour news feed. So they're always wanting to be first. So, I'm not familiar with Barcelona's, policies and procedures on what they released. I don't even know what they have as far as public records. But I think, it was a little confusing when they were talking about a third party and a phone being arrested and then the wallet being found in the water. But now we're kind of piecing it together. I think when they have a little bit more of a clearer picture, they'll probably release more information. I still don't think they really know everything, because just because they're saying they're ruling out foul play, that means that they probably have reason to believe that he fell in the water. My biggest fear is he dropped the wallet in the water when he's on the pier and he's reaching for it and he falls in. And that's an even more terrible, tragic way to think of, him struggling, trying to just reach to get his wallet. I mean, how panicked we are when we drop our keys in the grate in the shopping plaza parking lot. I can only imagine dropping your wallet in another country in the ocean. You would be pretty desperate to probably get it. Or it could be like Jennifer said, it floats out of his pocket after he's already in the water. We just don't know. And I think the biggest thing for that family right now is that they have some answers. And the worst of those answers is that he's gone.
Yeah. And that is the absolute worst. I mean, that
obviously right. But in that, they
everything.
do have, I don't, we were all talking as parents. I don't know what's worse, knowing he's gone or sitting here wondering. I mean, those are equally tragic places to be as a parent and just as a human being and as a friend of his that's there that he came over to see. Now we can just grieve and be reminded of how wonderful of a human being he was. That's the only positive thing you can bring from that.
And you don't have to go much further than Savannah Guthrie to see how tortured somebody can be, not knowing,
Absolutely.
Which is what's Absolutely. Not knowing what's going on. But Adam Bluefire, let us know, because I think I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like you when we first met you told us that you live in Barcelona. I may be making that up, but Adam Bluefire says his phone being stolen and him ending up in the sea, I don't feel are two individual separate events. Not impossible, of course, but it does seem weird. Melissa Navone, I tend to agree with this statement. No foul play is too quick to know. I mean, the only thing I can say to that is we don't know what authorities know, but also to invoke my mother's famous saying is always be paranoid. So I would be paranoid of foreign police being a little too forthcoming. I mean, Mary, what do you think? Do you think it's too soon for them to say, nope, there's no foul play here, everything's good? This guy, we spoke to him, whoever took his phone, he's cleared, and the wallet was floating because it either slipped out of his back pocket or, to Monica's point, which I wasn't even thinking, it fell in the water. He went to try to get it, and that's how he ends up in the water. But you think, despite what the police are saying, that it is too soon to declare no foul play?
I do. I think there needs to be an autopsy. And I think that this whoever he was with at 3 o'clock, they're supposedly following security or cameras down the street and watching them walk or whatever. We don't know. Did they question this person? Did they find this person and stuff like that? But the autopsy to me is very important. I will say, because I'm looking at the comments, that, the wallet itself, still had his credit cards, his IDs, and, that kind of stuff in it. So to me, it doesn't. At first, I thought, did he lay his wallet and phone on the beach, and then the Ty gets whatever, the guy picks up the phone. But we don't even know where the phone was found, or where this guy pickpocketed. So I just think it's interesting that his wallet had everything in it, and we have no autopsy, and for them to call it. And like I saw different reports. So, but if it's been confirmed, no foul play, I think it is too quick.
Yeah, and thank you. And Jen, to you, someone just asked a question. I wonder if he's a strong swimmer. Just speak about that for a moment. I mean, what if he is a horrible swimmer, or what if he is a strong swimmer when you're, let's presume he was, drinking alcohol that night. If you're intoxicated, which most 20-year-old kids are going to be on spring break at a nightclub, what does that do to your ability to swim or your ability to not be able to swim?
Well, I think with anything, it affects, right? Whether you're driving or whether you're just trying to walk a straight line. That's why we have all these sobriety tests that people can't even go like this with their eyes closed. Their fingers are all over and they can't track. So, alcohol, especially at extreme levels, and we have no idea what his toxicology is going to show. But in any event, it affects everything. And the biggest thing it can affect is disorienting a person, particularly in the water at night, in the dark, with a possible current. I don't know what the tides are there. I did not look that up on this case. I normally always look through tides to see if there's any rip tides or any other currents that are going on at the time of this disappearance. I didn't have time to look at that yet. But that to me, I always find very interesting. I was also going to comment to Mary and Monica. By the way, great guests here.
Yeah.
I did want to comment about why I believe they might know, and I don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. But it reminds me of the Kobayashi case. And of course, that's different because Mr. Kobayashi, that was a self-harm situation, but they had all this video, right? They had the video of him taking his life. In this case, we know that the nightclub had a lot of video. And I wonder if, like in the Riley Strain, where they had all the video of him walking.
Kobayashi, you're talking about the woman who from Hawaii and her father who ended up taking his own life. Is that it?
Yes. And in the parking garage, there was video of him taking his own life. And we know that there was, and I'm not saying that about Jimmy at all. I'm just saying that the mode at which they might know the information, that combined with perhaps something from the cell phone and witnesses, like you said, just becoming unstable and then falling from that pier into that watery area. We don't know for sure, but I could see that being the reason why they've come out. But I agree with Monica and Mary. An autopsy is critical. It's critical to understand the toxicology, and it's critical, as Monica said, to understand what went on outside of the body. I mean, if there's contusions and he were beat, that is critical. If there isn't, and he just fell and then drowned alive, then that's also critical.
AR Wyoming, always generous here. Prayers to all. Thank you for your coverage. The COE, the mods, Steve Cohen, Space Coast, they all make it happen. And then, this is what we were discussing from Bisky, that Spanish News Police found his phone. Apparently, this is a pretty well-known local thief. Monica Jordan, it's not a good night for a thief if you steal a phone and that person ends up dead. They've got to have really questioned this guy, right? I mean, I've got to think that they really spent, I hope, a good amount of time. I mean, Monica, what would your line of questioning be for this guy who's apparently well known in the area for stealing
That's probably a better question for Jennifer. She was on the side of law enforcement, but what I don't understand is they find the phone at the police station, but does the guy turn it in, or is he arrested and they find the phone on him? That's what I don't know. I think that's more important, because if the guy comes and turns it in, then he's kind of laying the foundation of looking like a good Samaritan. And
that's a great question. I mean, Jen, do you know that? Yeah, I know I'm cutting you off here, but Jen, do we know the answer to that? Did he turn in the phone once he heard about this?
My information is that it was an extortion situation. He had the phone. He made a call to family or others and tried to say, listen, I'll give you your phone back if you give me the money, or maybe at that point even to Jimmy. But nevertheless, then that's how police ended up finding him through that case, through tracking the call that was made to try to conduct the extortion. That's my understanding. So I don't think Good Samaritan at all. I think exploiting the situation, and I think he was nabbed.
Yeah, I mean, there's other weird things here, Monica's apparently, and Jen, if you know, please feel free to jump in here. But apparently, he left the nightclub with someone who's still unidentified. Like, we don't know who he left that nightclub with, and police have not revealed this. Monica, how critical is it, the last person that he was with?
I think that's like probably the biggest piece of information. I mean, I'd absolutely want to know who he was with. If he's somebody he just met that night, is it an American kid? I mean, there's like a million questions that could come from, or answers that could come from determining who he was with and who he left with. Were they going to get something to eat? Were they going to go down to the beach? Is this guy friends with the guy that ends up with the phone? I mean, identifying that guy is, I think, paramount to the investigation. I agree with Mary and Jennifer. Until you get the autopsy done, I think it's too soon to rule out foul play. And I think until you identify the person he's leaving the club with, I think it's too soon. In these situations, from a criminal defense standpoint, the victim's family ends up with more questions than answers, even at the conclusion of a trial. And if there's a conviction, all the way through the appellate process, all of the questions are never answered. And it is a horrible position for them to be in. And it's a horrible position for the defense to be in, because it just can't be done. In this situation, though, I think if you could get to the answers of just who was with him when he left, that would probably provide just a complete wealth of information that would open up doors for a lot of other things to be answered as well.
Yeah, and Mary, to you, I mean, forget programs abroad, but I mean, since you're at the epicenter of the University of Alabama and your daughter was there 2 years ago, is there any kind of safety programs that they're, given either like at freshman orientation or otherwise, where they're taught, walk together in a buddy system just on campus, talking in Tuscaloosa? Do they get information or trained on anything to try to keep them a little bit safer just at the University of Alabama, let alone when they go abroad?
Yes. And a matter of fact, I am a chapter advisor for a sorority here in Tuscaloosa, and they just had the local police, the University of Alabama police, come and talk to the sorority that I'm an advisor for about things that are going on and what to do in a situation. And what was so sad is, so this guy got in the back of one of the sorority girls' car, and you know who she called? Her mother. And, that should not be your first call. You can't get somebody out of your car. You call 911. And so it's just kind of, directing the young ladies to see that, the police are your friends. Okay. So call them, call 911, get out of the car, run, whatever. And they were just trained on that. And I had no clue that these young girls were calling their mother instead of calling the police. And it was very helpful.
If I was pickpocketed right now at 56 in Barcelona, I'd probably call my mom and then call the police. It's just pretty sad. That's just a sad comment on me, but that's a whole other story. I live 5 minutes away. So I was right about Adam Blue Fire. I live 5 minutes away from the Shoko Club. It's not a dangerous area generally, but pickpocketing is an issue in general. if someone is young, drunk, they'd be vulnerable and to target anywhere. And that's why I was just asking Mary about just, safety tips in general. Gia and TJ's mom, sorry. That was my dyslexia kicking in, which I don't have. Gifting 5 surviving the survivor memberships. Jen Koffendorfer, I don't think a lot of people know this, that you're, as my daughters would say, that you're a baddie. You're an expert in self-defense. How important is this? This was a young man, but for young men and young women, in your opinion, with your career path, but how important is it for people to learn just some basic self-defense, and where can they do that? I know it's a little bit off topic, but I've seen your daughter online. I've seen your son online. Your son's a big guy. But how important is it for young people to learn to defend themselves, in your opinion?
Oh, it is critical. I've made my daughter suffer through my class 3 different times. She doesn't seem to mind too bad. But I tell you what, I personally try to teach about 3 to 4 times a year. I've got a big class coming up April 18th for the gay community, because they are always so targeted. They reached out to me, and I'm really excited to do that class. Men and women alike can be vulnerable to be targeted for different reasons. And so it's just critical that you receive some training. I always say, I think if you're a young woman, I think if you can find a woman instructor, it's best, because they understand how it feels to be small and to be vulnerable and to not be as strong as a male. And it's critical. Take an hour, 2 hours, find a class. If you're in my area, please feel free to DM me at Koffendorfer FBI, and we can get a class. I've already done a Twitter class, believe it or not. Twitter X. These gals reached out for me, and I put one together. So
I would love to do that on Surviving the Survivor. Let's set that up. We're gonna do it. If Jen's willing to do it. Judy Herbert, remaining very generous here once again. SCS. Bringing stories like this to the forefront. Very, very sad story. Excellent panel. Excellent journalism. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Judy. But Jen Koffendorfer, let's pick out a realistic situation. Let's say you're a 20-year-old woman and you're in Barcelona and you feel someone tugging at your purse and it's over your shoulder. What do you do? Is there tangible advice that you can give?
Well, first of all, I recommend you not have a purse. And I know that sounds, but I don't carry a purse. You want to see my purse?
Yeah.
It's my purse right here.
Yeah.
I have 3 things in here, and that's it. I close it up. I have my phone with me, and I have that hidden on my person. You don't make yourself susceptible like that. Wear pockets, do things that have snaps and buttons. I mean, I'm just trying to say the reality of, if you really want to be safe when you're going to be out drinking, so possibly vulnerable, just don't have a purse. Don't have those huge, big gold hoops on. Try to make yourself less of a target. So when I teach, I always teach about that, how to reduce your chances. And then I actually teach also in hindsight. I use specific examples of women who have been targeted and men, and how they got into that situation, so we can learn from what happened to them. So anyway, I would start with that. But if you had your purse on and somebody tugged at it or tried to get it, say you're in the street, let them have it. Your purse is worth nothing. You are worth everything. It's not worth the battle.
Another person who's a baddie for sure, besides Mary Turner, is Monica Jordan. You do not mess with Monica Jordan. You just know not to. You definitely don't mess with her husband, who's also a bad man, and I mean that in a good way. But Monica Jordan, what do you do to? Have you ever taken any kind of like self-defense class, Monica Jordan? Do you know how to handle yourself if something goes south?
Somewhat, but when we were talking, I was just looking up where Jennifer's located. I was like, I probably should take one.
Not far from you, not that far from you.
Yeah, no, but with Madeline, with our daughter, we've always been, with my husband being in law enforcement and me doing what I do, we've always talked about kind of having your head on a swivel, kind of knowing an escape route. I'm kind of the belief that, as Jennifer said, if you're coming after me and you want something I have, just take it. I can get it. I can get whatever I have on eBay again. So the people that fight for stuff sometimes are the ones that end up killed. At least that's my experience with my clients that commit murders when they go in to rob somebody. It's like, I just take the car. I don't care. But no, I think people need to be a little bit more aware. What makes me crazy living in a college town is I constantly see these young women and young men looking down at their phones at night, walking down a street that's got buildings next to it. And so there's side roads, side streets, bushes. If somebody jumped out, they have no idea of their surroundings. We're so digitally addicted that we cannot even make it one block without either Snapchatting, looking at a map, talking to your mom, something. And it makes me nuts because first of all, I'm terrified they're going to step out in front of me and I'm going to clip them. That's the first thing. The other thing, I'm worried that they're going to become victims.
Yeah, I mean, these are all great points here. Now, Jen, I opened up Pandora's box. People have questions already. Jen, I heard it's not a good idea to wear. There's other details we have to get to on the Gracey story in a second. I've heard it's not a good idea to wear a ponytail if you're walking in a parking lot by yourself. True? Should you not? You have your hair in a ponytail right now, Jen Coffin.
I don't think that matters at all. What matters is your spatial recognition when you're in that parking lot. I teach you walk down the middle. If you are by yourself, I know it's counterintuitive because you don't want to be where a car can't go by. You can always go to the side, but whether it's a building or whether it's vehicles, you don't want to walk close to them. I'll give you a quick anecdote. So in an area outside of Houston, cases we worked up there, people would go close to their cars when they were shopping in this particular area. Gangbangers for an initiation grabbed them, slit their Achilles tendon, leaving them unable to walk, robbing them, and otherwise assaulting them. So I always teach, stay away from vehicles, stay away from any place somebody could jump out. Be in the middle so that you're not vulnerable. The ponytail isn't going to matter because they'll grab your hair.
Wow.
Great question, though.
The Achilles heel. That's next level insanity right there. Joel, will you ask Jen what sort of wallet that is? Are you able to divulge that? Jen?
Yes, I'm telling you, this is the best. It actually covers your lens here too, and I'm not getting paid anything to say this. This is my phone cover, and there's, I've got my credit card and an ID in here, and one other card, and it's $13.99 on Amazon, and I have to buy about 2 a year. This is 6 months old, and it's still holding up great. I highly recommend it. You have everything you really need there.
What's it called? Just
let's see what the make is.
Monica's going to trade in her Birkin bag right now for the $9.99 Apple iPhone case. This is mine, by the way. This is just a magnet, iPhone magnet.
Yeah, no, I would drop that. I need something a little bit more contained.
Yes.
Before we, did you find it, Jen?
No, but I'll look it up. I just ordered one today, actually, for my husband. So
I'll just look up locking wallet on.
I'll get it from Jen, and I'll tweet it out at Podcast SCS, and I'll put it on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor. Mary, let me just go back to you. So what's interesting about this case too, a couple more things to get to, and I love the fact that we're given sort of general information here. But there was a scooter robbery the night before. It was a female tourist wearing a gold chain, and a motorized scooter zips by and rips it off her neck. And why that's important is Jimmy Gracey was wearing a gold chain with a cross on it. Very, deeply religious person who I said, he served as the fraternity chaplain, which I didn't even know existed. But they are saying no confirmed connection, but also, and as far as we know, the necklace is intact. We haven't heard anything. But again, I mean, it has to raise your antennae that this is all going on in this city, and they're kind of clearing everybody, saying, hey, no foul play here. Right, Mary?
I agree. I mean, just the way that my daughter explained is it's these pickpockets and this type of theft is going on all the time. And so they ruled it out. I think we don't know if he still had the necklace on, but we also know that he left with somebody walking down the road, that he appeared to be fine walking out. And I did not know if they followed the camera as he's walking throughout this or through that area. There was no mention of a scooter. So yeah, I see their point. I just think that's just the way it is in this city.
Yeah, and I think it's probably very, very common from what I understand. Jen Koffendorfer, Monica talked about this a little bit earlier, but in terms of an autopsy, as far as we know, there's not been one. There should be one, but what should we learn there in turn? If the police are saying that no foul play is suspected, what should we expect to see in an autopsy then?
Well, I think what we're going to see, and first of all, I do think there'll be one done. This just has too much notoriety. I think the Catalan police will order it. I don't think the family will have to pay for it. And I believe because the State Department and likely Ligat FBI is also going to ask for that to be done, and I think they'll do it. I think what we're going to find is a high level of intoxication likely, and possibly a contusion from the fall. I think we're going to find water in the lungs. I would expect to find that. In other words, he wasn't deceased or not breathing before he hit the water. That is what I would expect if there's no foul play. If there's no foul play, that's what you could expect.
Monica Jordan, something all of you investigators talk about all the time are timelines. We know he was last seen 3 a.m. with this unidentified person. If you get over to Barcelona and you're investigating Monica Jordan, I mean, how far back do you try to go with the timeline and how far forward? What are you doing with the timeline?
Well, I would get in that phone because I would want to see if he'd made any plans with anybody once he landed. That, so I would be trying to look back a few days prior to him even landing in that country. In a murder case, when we have a murder client or a high violent crime, I don't really, when I sit down with the client for the first time, I don't sit down and say, just tell me what happened today or what happened at the scene or what happened at the murder. Of course, all my clients are innocent, so they weren't there. But it's just
Of course they are. Like Shawshank.
Yeah.
Right. But one of the big things is that I want to go back a day or two because a lot of how we get to the meat of the coconut is really a day, about 24, 36, 48 hours before the real tragedy happens. In this case, obviously, this is, we don't think it's a murder right now. I think everyone's kind of leaning towards it was maybe a very tragic accident. But I would want to know, like I said, what's on that phone? What's his intentions? Does he have dinner reservations? Am I meeting up with Billy? Has Billy got a girlfriend for me? What's the beach look like? What's the, just whatever he's, all of that additional information, I think is what's going to be helpful once you start interviewing people and trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Thank you. If you guys have any, we're going to wrap it and just get final thoughts in just a couple minutes. If you have any questions for any of the three guests, just put in a triple Q and I'll go to the bottom of the chat and we'll get them in there. By the way, tomorrow Carm is here. It is Fridays. That's when people generally either yell at me for being mean to Carm or yell at Carm for forgetting her train of thought. But we are going to do something a little different. I don't know if you heard, but the next season of The Bachelorette was just pulled because video was just canceled because video just emerged of The Bachelorette essentially beating the crap out of her former fiance. I'm not sure if he was a fiance or boyfriend. And the case has gotten convoluted and it's gotten tons of attention because ABC is literally pulling down and canceling one of its most profitable shows after they went out and promoted it. So we're going to get Carm on, who's almost 87, to talk about Bachelorette-hood and life with the Bachelorette. So either we'll have 3 people watching or maybe we'll have 300,000. You just never know. But we'll be doing the show regardless at 1 p.m. Tomorrow. Mary, back to you. is this the sort of thing where you would like to see, and someone asked about this, why have police not held a press conference? Is this the sort of thing where you'd like to see police hold a press conference to clear up some of the questions that seem to not be going away? This happened Tuesday. It's Thursday here in the States, so it's only been a couple of days, but a lot of questions.
I don't think they can unless a judge gives them permission. Is that right, Jennifer?
Oh, certainly anybody can hold a press conference. They can. But I think particularly abroad, they operate a lot like the Bureau. The Bureau doesn't say anything until it's all done. Take Gabby Petito, for everybody who followed that case. That was the Bureau's lead on that case. You never heard a thing. Or we could talk more recently on Nancy Guthrie. Same thing. Mum's the word. They're not going to say a word until they have a conclusion, typically.
Yeah,
But at least with with the Guthrie lady, we saw a picture of the Ring camera of and we've seen nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the feds, when the locals were involved, they were saying all kinds of stuff that was, flim flamming all over the place. But once the feds got involved, we kind of stopped hearing a bunch of stuff. I agree with Jennifer. The feds, just like in federal court, you're not allowed to talk about what's happening in federal court. They're not giving press conferences. And I think that's where it loosened up, where it tightened up in the Guthrie case. Whereas in another country, when you go over to do a deposition, you just can't fly over to another country and do a deposition. You can't take a sworn statement in another country, just like you can go over to Alabama and take a sworn statement. So there's just different rules and different protocol. And like I said, the most important thing is getting entrenched with your local FBI guys that are on the boots on the ground in that country. But I just don't know if they're so quick to do press conferences. Spain may not care, or what the media thinks. They're like, listen, we're doing a job, and when we know something, you'll know something. You just go sit over there in the corner.
Although I think they've got a pretty feisty, I think they've got a pretty feisty media presence over there. And Jen, I'll let you get your thought right in here. But Adam Bluefire, do we know if autopsies take roughly the same amount of time in most countries to get results back? And does Jimmy, being a foreigner in a different country, make it take longer to be processed? Jen, what's your answer to that? Whatever you wanted to share with us.
Oh, I was just going to say the PIO did come out with a statement already. So It's not that they're not communicating. They are. You got to dig into the Catalan newspaper and all these Spanish newspapers, but you can find it. Secondarily, on the autopsy, look, whenever I had a case that involved a homicide, I was right there when the autopsy was being done when I was the case agent, because that way I know right away, instantaneous, what do I have here? Is it a suicide? Is it an accident? Is it a homicide or a murder? Is this what happened? So investigators know right away. There's no report that's done. We don't know about toxicology, but at least we know what that medical examiner thinks preliminarily, which helps guide us as to what we need to be looking for. So I would believe that it's about the same type of timelines here as abroad that could be expected.
You see the COE pulling footage of divers looking for the body earlier. Apparently, conditions were poor. There was very little visibility, but they managed to sadly find, and you can see that flyer on the beach right there. If you're just joining us, the show is winding down, but 20-year-old University of Alabama student James Gracey, his body was pulled from the sea outside the Chaco nightclub in Barcelona. Absolutely tragic situation. Mary Turner is an attorney, a very successful one in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And she had a daughter who went abroad in 2024. Mary, putting aside your criminal defense hat, but just wearing your motherly hat, what is the one question you would have for authorities right now in Spain, and your final thoughts?
Who did he leave the bar with? Is my number one question. And what do those videos on the street or the cameras on the street show. I will say, I think it helped my daughter. She is fluent in Spanish. And so that was, for me, a peace of mind. And I don't know about Jimmy, but I will say he's an honor college student. So that means he's made a great score on his ACT or SAT. And so he's very smart. And it's just so sad, but I don't know if he was fluent in Spanish at all.
Yeah, and he had just, I think, landed there just the day before. Yeah, I think it was the day before. But Monica, you might be right. Monica Jordan, private investigator extraordinaire. She has worked something like 50 death penalty cases. She worked with that. She's Charlize Theron, Eileen Wuornos. Charlize Theron played her. That was one of Monica's client, the monster. So Monica's used to monsters and other types. Also, Luis Rivera, for those who follow the Dan Markel Adelson stuff. Monica worked on Luis Rivera's defense team. But Monica, your final thoughts here. I mean, we've got to get the results of this autopsy back. How important, too, is it to look at surveillance footage in that area? There's got to be plenty of cameras. Spain is technologically advanced, just like we are. There's got to be cameras everywhere. How important is that? And you're fine.
Well, if I'm beating up my husband or screaming at my kid, you better believe there's going to be a camera that finds it. But that's just how that goes. I think that's paramount. Absolutely paramount are those cameras. But what I would like to say as my parting words from tonight is what an absolute showing of class and grace from Theta Chi. Though whatever you want to think about the Greek society at the University of Alabama, those young men that I have seen on national news throughout the day have knocked it out of the park. They've been kind, they've been articulate, they've been compassionate, have shown great restraint and great intellect. And it is, like I said, a lot of people have different opinions about the University of Alabama. But right. But I'm just telling you, what a class act of kids. If those are his peers, I don't even have to know anything about this kid. I mean, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I was thoroughly impressed with those young men today. And I hate that this has happened to their fraternity. I hate that terribly that this has happened to this family. But tragedy strikes in all different areas. And what a true blessing the Gracey family has to know that they have the support of this Theta Chi brotherhood, because they have just been really remarkable today and throughout this tragedy.
Very well said. And again, if you're joining, James Jimmy Gracey, just 20 years old, has lost his life in Barcelona, Spain, while he was out there to visit friends, spending their junior year abroad. I'm just thinking Rob D'Amico, who's a friend of mine and a retired FBI HRT person, hostage rescue team, which is very elite. He calls the ocean the big swallow. That's what he refers to it as. And you can't fight the ocean. A lot of times because of the tides, as people say, roll tide. Jen Koffendorfer, she is a friend of the show, friend of mine, retired FBI special agent, spent a lot of time down in Texas and, as you heard, elsewhere around the world. Jen, hopefully, do you believe we will get, finality here? That do you have faith in the Barcelona police that they will come forward and present either autopsy results or something kind of tangible to say, this is why we believe that there was no foul play, this is what happened, and the Gracey family can then, continue to grieve and try to put the pieces of their life back together?
I absolutely believe that the Barcelona police will put this all together, although that might be done through evidence and investigative findings that they give to Ligat FBI there. And that is then shared with the family. And then you could expect the family, obviously through interview and so forth, to express that publicly to the rest of us. So I don't expect some big press conference necessarily, but I think they will get the answers, and I think those will be relayed.
Mm.
My final thought is, this situation is every mother's nightmare and every father's concern. It's just, got kids this age. Thank goodness at the school that my current son is in, believe it or not, they don't do spring break right now. He was on spring break this week, and guess what they do? They call it mission week. You have to go read to kids that are in preschool and run around on the playground with them and throw them footballs and clean up your school. That's what they these kids probably aren't thrilled with not having a spring break, to be a senior in high school and not get a spring break. But my heart deeply goes out to the Gracey family. I can't imagine being in those shoes. And I just hope they reach out to these other families, whether it's the Petitos, who are wonderful, the Schmidts, wonderful, who have lost children. And of course, the Strain family, just all of these terrible cases. My heart just goes out to you.
Yeah, and Jen's an incredible advocate for victims, and we appreciate it. And our thoughts go out to Jimmy Gracey and his entire family and his extended family at Theta Chi. We're thinking of you guys tonight, and just an absolute awful tragedy. Tomorrow, again, Carm will be here 1:00. I had never heard of this person until the news broke today. Taylor Frankie Paul. She built a huge following as a Mormon TikToker, from what I understand. And now there's a big fall from grace as a video emerged of her beating up her significant other, and it's gotten uglier from there. And we'll have Carm come on. It's also, you see sometimes these celebrities and what the public facing image isn't exactly what it is behind the scenes. So we'll break all that down. Carm, I don't think, has any idea that she's doing this yet, unless she's checked her. I don't know who has more unread text messages, the COE or my mother. COE, what was that number you said the other day? So, COE sent someone a screenshot, and it was something like very shocking. And the person responded just by saying, I cannot believe you have, 13,000 unread, 4,100 unread text messages. And whatever your voicemails are probably triple that, and your emails are quintuplet that. So, but I don't know. Carm has also stopped reading all emails. I text Carm stuff, and then we're having a conversation. I'm like, I told you, blah, 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 blah. She's like, what do you mean you told me? I'm like, I texted you. She's like, oh, she doesn't read text, so there's no point in texting her anymore. But Carm, read up on Taylor Frankie Paul, because you're doing it tomorrow, 1:00. On that note, love you, America. Love you, Florida. Love you, Alabama. Roll Tide. And
Thanks, Bill.
we are thinking of Jimmy Gracey and his family tonight. Guys, stick around 1 second.